Do this tonight and stop nighttime. Urination, 5 common mistakes. Every night, millions of seniors unknowingly sabotage their sleep with one small mistake. Could you be one of them? Stay with me, this might save you years of peaceful nights. Why nighttime urination is not just aging. Have you ever jolted awake in the dead of night, that desperate urge to pee forcing you out of warm sheets and into the cold darkness? I have more times than I care to count. It felt like a punishment night after night, as if my own body had turned against me. Each time I stumbled half asleep to the bathroom, I felt older than my years, weaker than I wanted to admit. People told me that's just aging, as if that explanation should calm me down. But it didn't. It terrified me. Was this really what growing older meant? Living at the mercy of my bladder, afraid to close my eyes, because I knew I'd have to get up again and again. I tried to accept it, tried to convince myself I was powerless. But deep down, I refused to believe my best nights of sleep were already behind me. Then came the night I will never forget. I got up in the darkness like I always did, half blind and dizzy, and I tripped on the rug outside my bedroom. My hips slammed into the floor so hard I thought it had shattered. Lying there breathless and shaking on the cold tile, I felt something far worse than pain. I felt terror. What if I couldn't stand up? What if no one found me until morning? That fear hit me harder than the fall itself. Lying on that floor, I promised myself I would never accept this as just aging again. I had to look deeper. There had to be a reason my nights were so broken, a reason my bladder refused to let me rest. I started searching, reading every study I could find, talking to doctors, sharing stories with friends who had the same problem. And slowly, piece by piece, I uncovered a truth no one ever told me. The reason I was waking up wasn't just my age, it was my habits. Things I never questioned: what I ate for dinner, how I sat during the evening when I had my last cup of tea, were quietly working against me night after night. Those choices were small, but their impact was huge. When I understood that it felt like someone had handed me a key I didn't know existed, a way back to freedom. Because here's what no one tells you: nighttime urination does not have to rule your life. You do not have to surrender to it, and you certainly do not have to risk another painful, frightening fall in the dark. There are gentle, practical steps you can take, starting today, habits that can restore your sleep, protect your independence, and bring you peace of mind. In this video, I'll share the 5 most common mistakes that could be waking you up and how to fix them. Please stay with me until the end, because this knowledge could save you from the same terrifying moment I had on that cold bathroom floor. And if this story resonates with you, if you feel even the smallest bit of hope, please take a second to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. That support gives us the power to keep sharing honest, meaningful advice for seniors who deserve to live with dignity, strength, and peace. Before I continue, let me ask you one question. Which describes your last week best? A, I woke up to pee at least 3 nights. B, I slept through the night most nights. Type A or B in the comments and share if you want. Your experience might give courage to someone else who feels alone, and I read every word you share. Mistake number 1, eating salty or processed foods at dinner. I never realized how something as small as my dinner choices could hold so much power over my nights. For years, I thought the reason I kept waking up to pee was simply my aging bladder. that there was nothing to be done about it except one interrupted night after another. But once I began looking closely, I saw a pattern that shook me. Almost every night after I ate a comforting bowl of canned soup or a frozen meal, I'd find myself up again in the darkness, hurrying to the bathroom. It never crossed my mind that the salt hidden in those foods might be working against me. Salt is such a familiar part of our American diet that we hardly question it. It's there in deli meats, in microwave dinners, in that quick sandwich I'd grab at the end of a long day. It's easy fast, and it feels like a small reward when you're tired, but what I didn't know was how that salt was silently sabotaging my sleep. The science makes perfect sense. Sodium pulls water into your tissues all day long. It makes you retain fluid, keeping it parked in your ankles, your legs, sometimes even in your belly. While you're upright and busy, you don't notice. But the moment you lie down to rest, gravity stops working in your favor. That stored fluid begins to move back into your bloodstream, flooding your kidneys and filling up your bladder at precisely the time you are trying to rest. And that's why you wake up at 2 in the morning wondering what went wrong. I still remember Leonard, a retired teacher I met at a community wellness program. Leonard was 80, kind and dignified, but he was deeply frustrated by waking up every night, sometimes twice, sometimes more. He'd grown used to a routine of canned chili and packaged dinners food that felt simple and safe after a long day alone. I asked him gently if he ever checked the labels. He admitted he hadn't. So we sat down together, reading those tiny black numbers, and his eyes widened. Some of those cans held over half his daily sodium allowance in just one serving. Leonard decided to make a change. Instead of canned soups, he began cooking fresh vegetable stews with garlic and herbs. Instead of packaged deli meat, he roasted his own chicken, slicing it up for sandwiches through the week. Within just a week, he called to tell me that he had slept through the night without a single interruption. His ankles weren't as swollen, and he felt steadier and stronger in the mornings. You could hear the relief in his voice. I made changes too. I started paying closer attention to every label, even the ones I thought were harmless. I discovered so many hidden sources of salt, the little pickles on the side of my plate, the crackers I liked to snack on at night. Slowly, I shifted to fresh, whole ingredients seasoned with lemon rosemary or pepper instead of reaching for the shaker. And night after night, I noticed a difference. I wasn't waking up with that same overwhelming urgency. I felt calmer before sleep, confident that I wouldn't have to leap out of bed in a panic. The power in these small changes still amazes me. We grow up believing that food is just about calories or weight, but no one talks enough about how food shapes our rest, our energy, and even our independence. When you change your dinner, you change your night. And when you protect your sleep, you protect your dignity, your safety, your ability to live life the way you want. If you, like me, have been blaming your bladder alone, I invite you to look at what's on your plate tonight, because that single choice could be the difference between a night of fear and a night of peaceful healing. Sleep the kind you truly deserve. Mistake number 2 is something I never even considered for most of my life. I thought it was completely normal to feel a bit of heaviness in my legs by the evening, or to see a little swelling around my ankles after a long day on my feet. That was just what getting older meant, I told myself. But no one explained how that fluid collecting all day long in my legs could come back to disturb my nights over and over again. When I finally lay down to rest, gravity would stop holding the fluid down, letting it return to my bloodstream. In an instant, my kidneys would kick into high gear, sending all that fluid into my bladder, and there I was wide awake in the dark, forced to get up once more. What changed everything for me was learning that a simple act, as gentle as propping up my legs for 20 minutes before bed, could prevent that flood. I never thought something so basic could matter. But after trying it for a week, just with a couple of pillows under my calves, while I read the news, I felt calmer, steadier, and best of all, I started sleeping through the night. I met Roy, a retired firefighter, who told me he faced the same frustrating cycle. Once he began resting his legs elevated in the evening, he was amazed that he could finally make it to sunrise without a single bathroom break. It was a gift of peace, born from a small, thoughtful change. Mistake number 3 was equally surprising to me, even more so because it felt so harmless. Like many people, I had a habit of drinking too much, too close to bedtime. A comforting cup of herbal tea, a small glass of water before turning off the lights, they felt like acts of self-care, a gentle way to wind down. But the truth is, our bladders age with us. They grow more sensitive and less elastic, and any fluid we take in late in the evening will likely wake us before morning. I didn't want to believe it at first, but the evidence was there every night when I was jolted out of sleep, frustrated and exhausted. Changing this habit took a bit more discipline, but it was worth every ounce of effort. I shifted my drinking to earlier in the day, making sure my last real glass of water came about 2 hours before bedtime. It felt strange at first to give up my evening tea ritual, but I compromised by having that tea right after dinner instead. Within a few days, I noticed fewer nighttime interruptions, and I felt safer. No more sudden urges pulling me into the dark. No more fear of tripping on my way to the bathroom. When I think about these 2 mistakes together, forgetting to elevate my legs and drinking too close to bedtime, I see them now for what they are, opportunities. Opportunities to reclaim calm, uninterrupted nights, to feel more confident and balanced when I wake, to protect myself from the danger of a fall or the dread of another sleepless night. These are simple shifts, but they changed my life in ways I never imagined. If you, like me, have been searching for a sense of control over your nights, please believe these habits are worth trying. They are small acts of care that build up over time, and their impact can be profound. For the first time in years, I began to trust my body again, and I want you to have that same peace, that same confidence when you turn off the lights and say good night. Mistake number 4 was one I clung to for years, without ever realizing how much harm it was causing. I loved my afternoon coffee. It felt like a ritual, a reward for making it through another day, a little spark of energy as the sun began to sink. And on occasion, I enjoyed a glass of red wine with dinner, believing it would help me relax and sleep more deeply. What no one told me was how those habits, so comforting and ordinary, were working against me while I slept. Caffeine was the first culprit. Found not only in coffee but also in black tea sodas, and even bits of chocolate, caffeine stimulates the bladder just as powerfully as it wakes up the mind. It can irritate the bladder lining, making every small signal feel urgent. On top of that, caffeine can linger in the body for hours. I used to think drinking coffee at 2 or 3 in the afternoon was harmless, but by 10 at night, it was still stirring my bladder, pushing me out of bed when I most needed peace. Alcohol was no kinder. That soothing glass of wine or occasional whiskey before bed seemed innocent, even healthy in moderation. But alcohol is a diuretic. It pulls water out of your system, forcing your kidneys to work overtime and your bladder to empty more frequently. Worse still, it can fragment your sleep, making it hard to get back to rest once you've been woken. I only realized how deep that damage went after so many nights cut short. My mind foggy and my legs unsteady the next morning. I met Carl, a 74-year-old neighbor who shared his own experience. He was devoted to an afternoon cappuccino and a glass of wine with dinner. But he too was exhausted by waking up twice every night to pee. When he cut his caffeine after lunch and enjoyed his wine with food, rather than close to bedtime, he told me it felt like a new lease on life. He finally slept long enough to feel restored in the morning, a small victory that changed the way he saw aging altogether. Mistake number 5 was perhaps the most surprising of all, ignoring the urge to go during the day. I had developed a habit of putting off bathroom breaks while I was working gardening or talking with friends. It felt efficient to wait a bit longer. But what I didn't understand was how dangerous that pattern could become. By regularly stretching my bladder past its comfort zone, I was essentially training it to become confused. The nerves that signal fullness grew more sensitive, and at night, those same nerves would fire off messages even when my bladder was nearly empty, jolting me awake for no good reason. When I met Evelyn, a 79-year-old friend from church, she told me she'd done exactly the same. She would rush around during the day, ignoring every gentle urge to go, only to be woken up at night with that familiar panic. Once she started listening to her body, pausing to use the bathroom during the day, instead of delaying, she found her nights transformed. There was something profoundly healing about hearing Evelyn's story, because it reminded me that respecting my body's signals was an act of self-respect. By honoring those gentle daytime urges, I was restoring trust in my own bladder, retraining it to respond normally. Over time, I noticed that I wasn't being woken by false alarms as often, and my nights became calmer, my mornings brighter. These two mistakes, caffeine and alcohol at the wrong times, and ignoring your body's signals during the day, are easy to overlook. They seem harmless, but they steal away our rest, our energy, our confidence. Once I changed those habits, I felt a new steadiness in my life, a quiet strength, the kind that reminded me aging does not have to mean giving up. It can mean living smarter with more kindness for yourself and reclaiming nights that truly belong to you. When I look back on those countless nights of stumbling through the dark, my heart still tightens with the memory of fear and frustration. It's hard to explain to someone who has never lived it. The exhaustion that burrows into your bones, the anxiety before sleep, the dread of hearing your bladder's signal yet again pulling you from precious rest. I carried that weight for years, believing there was nothing I could do, that this was simply the price of aging. But today, I stand in a very different place, because I finally understood something no one ever explained. Those sleepless, broken nights were not destiny. They were the result of habits I could change. Learning about those 5 mistakes felt like someone opened a door I had never seen before. With each small change, I began to feel hope creeping back in, adjusting what I ate, giving my legs the chance to rest above my heart, rethinking my evening drinks, paying attention to those gentle urges during the day. These were acts of respect for my own body. They reminded me that I am still capable of caring for myself, still able to shape my health and protect my independence. Each good night of sleep became a gift, and with every gift, my confidence returned. I wish someone had sat me down years ago and said, "You don't have to surrender to this," because that is the heart of what I want you to know today. You do not have to surrender. There are simple, thoughtful, powerful ways to give yourself back the kind of rest you deserve, the kind of rest that lets you wake up strong, steady, and free to enjoy the life you have worked so hard to build. If I could go back and talk to that version of me who lay terrified on the bathroom floor, I would tell him that his best nights were not over. I would promise him that peaceful, healing sleep was not a luxury, but a right, and that reclaiming it would change everything about how he felt, how he moved, and how he lived. And I would say the same to you. You deserve peaceful sleep. You deserve to feel safe in your own home, steady on your own feet, free from fear of the dark. If this story has touched something in you, I invite you to keep going. Start with one small change tonight, then another tomorrow. Let these habits build a path back to calm nights, bright mornings, and the simple joy of knowing you are in charge of your own well-being. And if you feel ready, please subscribe to this channel, share this message with someone who needs it, and leave me a comment about your own experience. I read every word because your story matters. Together, we can remind each other that aging is not a sentence, it is simply another chapter, and you still have the power to write it the way you choose. As I look back over this entire journey, I see clearly how easily I was fooled into believing that waking up at night was simply my fate. For years, I carried the fear of falling, the humiliation of losing control, and the weight of exhaustion that seemed impossible to shake. But the truth was far simpler and far more hopeful than I had imagined. Nighttime urination was never just about aging. It was about patterns and habits, small choices that added up over time. From the salt hidden in my dinner, to the swelling in my tired legs, to the innocent cup of tea before bed, these little details quietly stole my freedom night after night. Once I learned to see them for what they were and to change them, I discovered a sense of peace I thought was gone forever. This lesson has changed more than just my sleep. It has transformed the way I view aging itself. Too often, we are told that getting older means giving things up, accepting decline, losing our power. But what I have seen, and what I hope you now see too, is that with knowledge and compassion, we can still make choices that protect our strength, our dignity, and our independence. Each small change, each thoughtful decision is a quiet act of courage. It is a declaration that we still matter, that we are worth caring for, and that peaceful restorative sleep is not a luxury, but a basic human right. The deeper lesson here is simple yet profound. Do not hand over your power to assumptions about aging. Instead, stay curious. Question your routines. Observe what makes your nights better or worse, and treat yourself with the same care you would give someone you love deeply. Every night of solid sleep you protect is a gift you give to yourself, to your family, and to the future you still have ahead. That is the path to growing older with grace, and it is a path I know you can walk one mindful choice at a time. The key takeaway is this: small habits shape big outcomes. Even if you feel trapped by sleepless nights now, you can change them. Start by applying just one idea from this video tonight and let your body rebuild trust in rest, one night at a time. Before you go, I would love to hear from you. What is one small change you think you could try this week to improve your sleep? Please leave your answer in the comments below so others can learn from your experience too. And if you found value here, please consider subscribing to the channel and even making a small donation if you can to help us keep creating helpful, honest content for people like you. Your support truly motivates us to keep going. Thank you for being here. You are not alone on this journey.